Dean, could we please rise and face the flag and sing our national anthem, please? Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons' commands. With glowing hearts we see us, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Could I have a motion to confirm the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Doucette. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? There being none, it shall be noted. Could I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, number 2515, held on November 9th, 2015? Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Main. Any question or discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to determination of items not requiring, determination of items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Diamary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 1, 2, and 8, please.
1, 2, and 8. Thank you. Mr. Main.
Number 9, please.
Number 9.
And number 11.
Number 11. Anything further? Councillor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Number 3.
Anything further? That's it? Councillor Bodner?
Item 16, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Butters?
Item 4.
Anything further? Motion to approve the items not requiring separate discussion. Moved by Councillor Bodner, seconded by Councillor Main. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have a number of presentations this evening, recognition of long-standing service to the City of Port Colborne. I wonder if Mr. Allen could join me at the podium. We have 2 presentations this evening for 25 years of service. The first is for Jim Allen, and we're here to recognize his 25 years with the City of Port Colborne. Jim started at the City of Port Colborne in 1990 as the SIMS coordinator. That stands for Sewer Inventory Management Systems. The goal of this project, in conjunction with the Region of Niagara and the Ministry of Environment, was converting paper-based maps into a digitalized database application. This provided quick access to the sanitary sewer information. The same process quickly followed for the roads, waters, culverts, and bridges. Jim also assisted in the water meter program in 1993. When Jim started, the city had one financial server and one Novell server for file storage. When staff moved into the new City Hall in 1996, a third service was added for document management and email. Jim launched an internal email to all City Hall staff in and around the year 2000. A few senior staff at City Hall had internet mail, as the connectivity was dial-up. Full internet for everyone came a couple of years later. This provided much easier information sharing among the 4 sites as the servers were at City Hall. Slowly, as new technology was implemented, there was a need for an IT department, and Jim moved over out of engineering in 2008 and became manager of information technology. Mobile devices such as smartphones were added to the communication system. At the same time, VPN, which stands for Virtual Private Network, access was added so that other sites and users at home could connect to the servers at City Hall. Jim took on the redesign of the web page in 2008, and the phone system maintenance and responsibility was moved to IT when the phone system was changed to VoIP, which is Voice over Internet Protocol. In 2009, because of the volume in the department, an IT analyst was hired to assist Jim. Building security through cameras and cards swipes was also added to the IT department in 2011. We now have 10 sites, 10 servers, 130 desktops, iPads, and smartphones connected through routers and VPN access. And who knows what the future will bring. Jim, on behalf of City Council and the citizens of Port Colborne, I wish to thank you for 25 years of great service. Jim Allen is the IT guy in this community of Port Colborne City Hall, and he saves my life on more than one occasion, and I think if we look at it, City Hall employees, I can say the same for you folks as well. Jim, this is a plaque we present to you on behalf of the corporation of the City of Port Colborne to Jim Allen in recognition of 25 years of dedicated service to the citizens of the City of Port Colborne, signed by myself as mayor on behalf of all of City Council. Jim, can I ask you to say a few words?
I'd like to thank Mayor Maloney and Council for this recognition. I mean, I really appreciate this, and I thank you very much for it. It's been fun, I'd have to say, and time does fly, so thank you very much.
I wonder if we could ask Sherry Hansen to come forward. Geez, for a minute there, I thought you'd left. So, the year was 1990, and the city was in need of someone to help with parking enforcement. And along came Sherry Lee. Sherry was recently graduated with honors from the Niagara College Law and Security program, including a third year to cover police and security. Born in Port Colborne, the place she has called home for most of her life, she was eager to start her new parking position as a parking enforcement officer. Many people referred to her as a meter maid, but to the city, she was much, much more. Within 3 years, she was assisting the property standards officers with grass and weed complaints. 7 years later, she was promoted to property standards bylaw enforcement officer and weed inspector. In this capacity, she was supervisor to the part-time parking enforcement officer. The department has continued to grow over the past 10 years with an additional part-time bylaw enforcement officer added, which grew into a full-time position, and now there will be 2 full-time bylaw enforcement officers under Sherry's watch. Sherry has worked with 5 different... Thank you, Sherry. You can take Nancy's job pretty soon. Sherry's position has been under the watchful eye of just about every department in City Hall, starting with Pat Premy in the clerk's office, and now with Dan Aquilina in planning and development. Sherry has worked with 5 different mayors, 6 different CAOs, and too many city councilors to count. She has so much experience, she could be the mayor or the CAO. Her position has taken on such matters as insurance claims, telephone systems, building security, encroachments, as well as the new development of new bylaws. You should see the smile on her face when you tell her you have a building you want her to demolish. Sherry has also assumed a leadership role in her profession and is the current Niagara chapter chairperson of the Ontario Association of Property Standards Officers. I should note, too, that during that period, she also found herself a husband among our existing staff. Sherry Hansen, 25 years, is a milestone to be celebrated. And on behalf of members of City Council and the residents of the City of Port Colborne, I want to thank you for your past service to the city, and we look forward to working with you in the future, certainly in the near future. And I would like to present you with a plaque acknowledging this situation and a little token of our gift in recognition of your service. Again, dedicated to Sherry Hansen in recognition of 25 years of dedicated service to the citizens of the City of Port Colborne. Thank you.
Thank you,
John. I would like to thank first and foremost Pat Premy, former clerk, who saw something in me and gave me a chance when she hired me 25 years ago. She encouraged me and helped me progress from a parking meter enforcement officer to the senior municipal law enforcement officer you see standing here before you. I would also like to thank Jan Beckett, who also came out to support me again tonight, as a former city clerk, for being my sounding board, always being there for moral support, and being one of my best friends. I would also like to thank Tim McAvoy, my mentor, who has helped me along in the progress in my career, especially with the insurance and claims investigation and policies and procedures. Lastly, and many thanks to Mayor and Council, past and present, for their continued support in the enforcement of bylaws of the municipality, and I look forward to serving you for many more years. Thank you.
We also have a little token for Jim, but he hasn't decided what he'd like yet. So as soon as we'll certainly get to that as quickly as we can. Before Christmas, it'll be a nice little gift as well. Okay, at this time, former Councillor Gary Bruno, could you come forward to the podium?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, especially around Christmas time. I'm hoping this will be a nice gift to put under the City of Port Colborne Council tree. I'm not going to elaborate. You've probably, if you haven't gotten the press release, I think you've gotten it. So I can not have to fill you in on all the numbers, and I know the mayor is going to say a few words. For those of you in the press there, get those Twitter people on the hook here, because this is something that I think we all should be proud of in this community. This is a small community that you always see on the entrance sign out by the Wainfleet line there, the little city that could, and this is a perfect example of the little city that can and did. Approximately 12 years ago, the Council of the Day invested in Port Colborne Fiber, created Port Colborne Fiber, which invested in Niagara Regional Broadband Network. There's a lot of people, past council, past board members to thank, but you really need to be thanked today. You are the people in the chair. You are the people that gave the authority to dispose of this asset now, and you are the people who are going to be entrusted with the proceeds of it. And I'm hoping that you'll also be the people that leverage this money as we did the hydro money. I think the check I'm going to present tonight is certainly a derivative of that decision to sell hydro. I think it's certainly, we've all seen with leveraging it, taking it sort of to 35, 40, 45 million. You can figure out the number after you see the check, because this is part of that. But more so, I think it's about the councils of the day and this council having the intestinal fortitude, the knowledge, the desire to not just raise taxes, to run a municipality, to do great things. People around this table today and in past thought outside the box, and it's paid some pretty big dividends. And I hope that going forward, you guys do the same. And I'm 100% confident you will, because I know you can, and I know there's many of you on this dais that were there then. This was at the time, I guess people can contemplate whether it was high risk or low risk. I can tell you, looking at the business plan back then 12 years ago, it was pretty low risk because the people that had signed up were the mush sector. Basically, the loan was going to be carried by that revenue. But it was still a decision that people had to make around this table. And a lot of thanks to a lot of CAOs, 3 mayors, a particular thanks to Peter Sinez, kind of the unsung hero in all of this. He's been the constant that's been here through all the CAOs and all the mayors. And from someone who we and everyone puts a lot of faith in from a financial basis, I think having his support then and now and through this process has been extremely helpful and steadying. Peter, I want to particularly thank you. And I think, as I said, without exaggeration, you're the unsung hero in the success of this investment. So without further ado, again, I'd like to thank all of you. And for those members of the press, this is how you do it. Because this is a way to take some, I'll use the word guts. Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to present you with a check for the sale of Port Colborne Hydro and shares in NRBN for $7.5 million.
Perhaps we could just stop 1 minute. Maybe I could have those members of council who were part of the 3 corporations that we had at the time. I noticed former Mayor Wayne Badway's here. Vance, get up here. Would you come forward, please? Members of council? I think all council, because everyone will be involved with this. Yvonne, Ron?
It takes guts to build something, also takes it to sell it.
Mr. Maine, Mr. Louie, Ms. Demery, come forward.
Frankie, you guys are the ones who did it. No, you guys, you told so.
Nancy, come on.
Okay.
Stay down here, Peter.
Peter, Jeff, get over here.
Come on. Come on, come on.
Come on.
guys, everybody get join in.
Since the
It's a
beginning.
good news story.
We've been here since the beginning.
Yes, she's there to make decisions too.
We're gonna spend that before the night's over.
I have an infrastructure issue.
I got a flower box issue.
I think it's 6.5, I won't take it all.
Take a number.
All I have to say is, we have $125 billion, I might supplement this.
What do you mean, Mike?
You mean Will?
Yeah, they just think it's
You're welcome, thank you.
Just a second.
So I'm not sure if anybody had any questions, otherwise I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Councilor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before you begin, Councilor Bruno, I wonder whether you could just elaborate. I know today we're celebrating the sale of fiber, but you were around, and can you just tell us how hydro and fiber kind of started, just briefly, because I think it's an important story if it were to come up again. So
Sure.
is there,
Thank you for the question. I kind of think in this process, you know, it took sort of 40 years to build Port Colborne Hydro, and a lot of people's sweat and blood and investment, and I think we got sort of in the neighborhood of, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, 13 to 14 million?
Just under 13.
Yeah. You know, this deal took 10 years, a little over 10 years, and we had a $375,000 initial investment and supplemented it after we got that back in dividends with $400,000. So we put 825 or so in. We got $7.5 million out in 12 years, which I did the math the other day, is something like 1,074% return on investment. I think the biggest difference is hydro at the time was, I guess the analogy is the prettiest girl at the dance everybody wanted to date. I think in fiber, what you're looking at is the supermodel who nobody knew about until we went out and advertised and marketed her. But I think, you know, a lot of little things made for a big thing. The one I'll always remember is going to an FCM convention out west. I forget whether it was Regina or Edmonton. And there were people there, it was kind of the right time, the right place. There were people there who talked about hydros and utilities getting into fiber optics. It was right around the time that utilities in Niagara were getting together and proposed this. And, you know, it's those little things that I think coming back off of that and stimulated off that was suggested to the council to do it. It's why I always believe that, you know, you've got to keep an open mind, and, you know, this will pay for a lot of conventions. So, you know, I guess they're not all bad, and if you keep your mind and eyes open, but it's all about networking and being out there and looking for opportunities, and I sure hope that you don't spend this all in one place. And I think there's other Port Colborne fibers out there and other things like this out there, as long as they're prudent, very conservative investments. You don't want to, I think as a municipality, you want to be risk adverse. And I just think, you can go out and do this all over again. You've got the will and the skill. Thank you.
Any other questions of
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Gary? Gary, thank you very, very much. This is very exciting. It's not every day you get to hold a check for $7.5 million. There's a report before council this evening whereby council will begin discussion about the use of these funds. Now the fights begin. I would like to thank Gary for his, what I say, a guiding role in the development of this project, and as being chairman of Fiber Inc. for over 13 years. This wasn't accumulated in overnight. As well, there were many other members of council and staff and members of the public who served on the Port Colborne Hydro Board and energy boards, fiber as well, who contributed a great deal of time for the betterment of the city as they nurtured these investments under the watchful eye of the city councils of the day. Current council members sitting on these boards included Councillors B. Kenny and Ron Bodner. Past councillor members included Vance Badaway and Bill Steele. Past members of the public included founding members Ross Tuck, Len Hunt, and Evan Weaver, who were all part of the original Port Colborne Hydroelectric Commission, along with Dan O'Hara. I acknowledge the involvement of current General Manager Scott Louie, past General Managers Robert Cotterell, Cecil Vincent, and Robert Heil. Also current Treasurer Peter Sinnes and his staff Curtis Clusters, Catherine Hanna, and Carol Egerter. Also current Secretary Nancy Giles, and past Secretaries Debbie Biller, Laura Lee, and Gail Todd. At one time or another, all of those folks contributed to and participated in the steady growth of these companies and this investment. This truly has been a team effort from the beginning, and our success has been dependent upon it. Thank you, everyone, for this important role you played. The proceeds of this outstanding financial investment is well received by the municipality and will be put to very good use. Thank you for your time. And thank you for your money, Gary. Okay, if we could return to our agenda. There were no delegations per se, but there will be some presenters when the various items that we will be discussing tonight come forward. Perhaps we could refer to any councilors' issues or inquiries at this time. There being none, then I would call for consent to change the order of items for discussion. I'd like to go to item number 11, and that was Councilor John Main, and I'm requesting this permission because Mr. Greg Beaker, who is making a presentation to us, has motor vehicle trouble and would like to get on the road as soon as possible. It's Greg. Okay. And before Greg starts, could I have a mover? That would be Councilor John Main for this recommendation. Moved by John Main, seconded by Angie Demaret for this recommendation. Go ahead, Mr. Beaker.
Okay. Your Worship and members of council, I really apologize for, I've been locked out of my car without my coat even, and CA is there, so I'm a little distracted, but I'm looking forward to doing the presentation and hope that you'll have some questions. Hope that I can stay focused too. Okay, the city is undertaking a cultural plan, as you know. These are some of the things we'd like to say about outcomes from cultural plans. They're about developing a shared vision and framework for action so that people can work together. It's about integrating culture into different aspects of municipal planning and decision-making, economic development, physical evolution and development of the community. It's about anchoring a different kind of perspective or mindset about culture, a mindset that understands how significant it is increasingly to the economies of communities. Building networks to help build capacity and realize opportunities, and establish strategies to sustain community engagement after the plan has been developed. These are just some plans that we've done over the years. All contexts. We're working in Calgary at the moment, but have done cultural plans for communities with as few as 6,000 people. So I think quite a range of work. And I'm really delighted to be here. This is our planning process, kind of the logic of the planning process, if you like. We have a steering committee, which Harry put together. That was part of the startup. A communications plan and some communication material on the city's website. We did some background research, mainly looking at all the existing plans and strategies of the city, so that when we develop the cultural plan, we can knit it into the kinds of plans and priorities that the city already has. We undertook something called cultural mapping, which I'll say a little bit more about in just a minute, but it basically is identifying cultural assets in Port Colborne. Then we went into a community engagement phase, which has included extensive interviews, a community forum, with students at two high schools, which was terrific. We'll have some focus groups next week. So pretty robust engagement process. And then, so it's where we now is establishing the base of background research and the number of assets, engaging the community, where do we want to be, and then how do we get there is the plan itself. I said I'd just say a word about cultural mapping. It's just basically a systematic approach to identifying cultural assets in the community. But the word systematic is really important. And I think you have this in your packets, because it's completely unreadable, I know, from where you are on the screen. This is what we call a cultural resource framework. It's a way of thinking about and organizing information on different kinds of cultural assets in the community. So people working in the cultural field and cultural enterprises, that's how Statistics Canada defines the cultural sector. And as you see, it's all the nonprofits we think about immediately, the museums and libraries and theaters and so on. But it's also some of the fastest growing kinds of businesses, digital media, design, film and video. Increasingly important parts of the economy. All kinds of festivals and events, important natural and cultural heritage features, intangible assets, the stories, traditions, place names, those things we can't touch, but that contribute to defining what's unique about Port Colborne. And then the smaller community-based organizations, usually volunteer-run, but equally as important, the historical societies, the small arts organizations. Why do we do cultural mapping? Just to have a better base of knowledge to inform planning, to inform promoting assets in the community, both to the community itself and to visitors, and to support networking and collaboration among cultural groups. I can tell you that one of the main conclusions from the engagement process so far, which is not finished, but one of the main conclusions is this last one, that there just is not enough coordination, collaboration, communication across the different kinds of cultural organizations and activities in the city. So the mapping will assist in building those connections. Culture and economic development. A couple of ways we think about this. The first and probably most important is that we know that we used to think about economic development as chasing businesses, and people would follow businesses. And we really know now that if we build communities in which people want to live and work, that businesses and investment follow people, not the other way around. So having a high quality of life with cultural amenities and things to do, and a rich community with cultural heritage, all those things help define the quality of place of the community. Expanding creative industries, I've really spoken about that already, and cultural tourism, which is the most rapidly growing segment of the global tourism market. And the cultural tourists stay longer and spend more money. So, these are some of the outcomes that Harry identified in the RFP that we responded to. So these are some of the must-haves coming out of the plan. To develop a shared vision connecting all communities and cultural groups and activities. There we go, back to the connectivity again. But to define the municipality's role in realizing that vision. To complete a mapping of cultural resources to inform the Arts and Cultural Master Plan, but also to inform the economic development strategy. And to recommend a mandate for the municipality, including vision statement, governance, policy, development priorities, and a delivery system. So it's really helping to define and organize how the city organizes itself to best advance a cultural agenda. And three more, to recommend the organizational structure within community services to enhance cultural development, to recommend a role for future role for the Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee in the context of what role the city is assigned or defined, and then to come up with a concrete 10-year plan of short, medium, and long-term objectives. So I don't know how long we have, Your Worship. I just identified a couple of questions. If you had a moment or two, if not, I can certainly.
You have about 5 more minutes for your presentation.
Okay. Well, I'm finished the presentation, and the two questions are: what are we already doing well in Port Colborne? What are some of the strengths that we can build on through the plan? And the opposite of that is, what aren't we doing, or aren't we doing as well as we might? That needs to be addressed by the plan. I don't know whether Council has any thoughts about that, but I welcome any feedback that you might have.
Are there any questions of members of council? I failed to mention that Mr. Beaker is a Director of Cultural Development of NDB Insight. Okay, thank you very much for that briefing. And
Thank you very much.
hope you can get on your way very quickly.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. We'll see you again.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, if we may go back to item number 1. Oh, yeah, we forgot to vote on that. Could we, it's been moved and the recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item number 1 was Madam Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planning and Development Report number 2015-207, subject donation of 254 Mitchell Street to Habitat for Humanity, Niagara.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Butters? All those in favor? Carried. Mr. Davies, you have a presentation as well as part of, can you come forward, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor, Council, staff, and guests. And introduce a member of our Board of Directors, Dave Weens, who is here with me this evening. We are delighted with the continuing support of the City of Port Colborne. And if I could take a moment to bring you up to date on the current project we have underway in the city, which is the renovation of the home that was donated to us at 320 Bell Street. We have started the process and completed the removal of some of the hazardous materials that were in the home in terms of an old heating system. And pleased to say that starting today, we actually started removing the beautiful trim that's in the house. And tomorrow we will be removing all of the lath and plaster, which is quite a large and messy project. And all that work is being donated generously and being completed by Service Master Niagara. We're doing all that work, including the disposal of all the waste that will be coming out of there in a proper way. So it's a great gift from Service Master. And as we move to the next stage, it'll be the installing of new utilities, heating system, electrical, etc. And in that regard, Gabriel Contracting is donating the installation of all the whole new electrical system for the home. South Coast Garage Doors is donating and installing a new garage door. And Landmark Solutions is coming forward to provide us with all the windows. So we are off and have some great momentum. In saying that, we look forward to further support from the community of Port Colborne and our friends and partners elsewhere in the region so that we can complete our fundraising goal and also acquire the product and services we need to complete this great house. So we're looking in particular for someone who has the license to do the plumbing, a heating contractor for radiant heating system, great for someone for drywall, roofer, siding, sort of the standard things you need to renovate a house. So there's opportunities also for people to get involved as volunteers and organizations. As to the family, we are in the process of selecting a family and expect to have all our applications in and due by the middle of December. But solutions for the future to keep this momentum going are really paramount on us having this piece of property so that we have the momentum of the community and the individuals and it's mobilized. And I think it's showing continued great community leadership by all of you by providing this piece of property for Habitat. And it demonstrates the trust and the hope that we have for many more families that we can provide a solution for in Port Colborne. So on behalf of Habitat, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Davies? Councillor Butters, Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we get to see it before the family moves in? Because I saw it. I hope no trim's going back.
Yes, we've taken off the trim, not only taken it off carefully, we had carpenters removed.
Excellent. So we're good to get to see it, though?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
There was a celebration when we kicked off the announcement.
I was there. Yeah.
Everyone had a chance to go through, and when you get a chance to go through again, well, it might be as a volunteer, right?
Yeah.
On behalf of the city.
Yes,
So we invite the city and staff and council to get involved. But at the very end of the process, we have this beautiful home dedication and key ceremony.
Yeah.
And everybody will be invited to that.
Good.
And we have a little celebration, and we turn over the key to the new owners. They open the door, and everyone gets a chance to go through and see a home basically transformed from maybe the 1930s to being 2016 standard.
Great. Thank you.
Councillor Demery?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say that this is, it's certainly great work that's being done by Habitat, and it's, the community is stepping up to the plate, and we hope to hear more. The search for the family goes on, and we're eagerly waiting the results on that. But anyone who would like to step up and take part in this great build, just get a hold of me or get a hold of Habitat for Niagara, and we'll be happy to hook you up and get you working.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Doucette? No. Mr. Davies, thank you very much for your being here tonight, and perhaps you're going to wait for the other item that's coming on dealing with Habitat, but if you're not, thank you very much again for being here, making your presentation. I think we're probably, all of us will see you on the site.
Yes.
One day soon.
Thank you very much.
Call for the question on this. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item number 2. Madam Demery, that was yours as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just lost my feed here. Just 1 second. There we go. Engineering and Operations, Engineering Division, report number 2015-211, subject request for pedestrian crossing controls on Regional Road 3, Main Street East.
Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Doucette. Speakers, Madam Demery?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm seeing in the report, we're hearing that the region is not going to go through with putting a crossing in, and we know that that road it is their responsibility to do that, but they're saying that after studying the situation, the request doesn't meet the existing warrants, and again, we're hearing this on a continual basis. But the fact is that there's a dangerous area. We need to do something about it. One of the options that is listed in option B in staff comments and discussions here is that we put this forward for consideration of a 2016 budget allocation of about $90,000 for the installation of an intersection pedestrian signal on Main Street East. And I would like to make sure that that is done, that we do put that into our budget deliberations, because this is a very important situation and it does need to be rectified.
Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much.
I've talked about this, I don't know how many times. I've brought it up as well. I have a petition here that's been signed by the community, the neighborhood. I'm going to hand it over to the clerk. There are more of these floating around. These are the only ones that I could get a hold of today. There is a sense and an importance, and the region feels it doesn't warrant one. Yet, across the street from where we want to put one of these is a large community where there are children as well as seniors that need to get across for a lot of reasons. And going through Main Street, I was trying to figure out, someone watched the person that did all this count, by the way. I think it's important for everyone to understand. Okay, this individual showed up at 9 o'clock, left at 12, came back at 1, left at 4, and that was it. That was the day that they did the count. And that was, by the way, within 2 weeks after the bridge went down. Okay? So first of all, missing the main times when there really is a lot of traffic there, around 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then lunchtime, where there are people coming in and out, and then after 4 o'clock is when it gets really busy in that area. So they did a count, and it didn't fit, but the way they're doing the count, I don't know if I agree, but that's their business, that's the way they do it. But what they have to understand, and I think the region's going to have to eventually understand, is that not everything works 9 to 5. with a 1-hour lunch somewhere else. That just doesn't work that way. But that's the way they want to do their count. I am definitely in support of what Councillor Desmarais has just mentioned. If they're not going to do it, then we should do it. We have a neighborhood that has given us a petition, and there are more to come. We have a neighborhood that feels there is a serious danger there, and we have to have some kind of signal to allow them to cross. One of the main parks for children on the north side of Highway 3, the only park that really exists, is on the south side of Highway 3. How do they go play on it? Even if parents come with them, it's still a danger. If there was a place to cross, everyone would use it, and everyone would find a way to get across in a much safer way. I don't know what the answer is, but we have to find a way to get them across in a much safer fashion. And right now, it's not safe. It's as simple as that. And there are a lot of parents that would love to go have their kids play at Chestnut Park, but they won't. They're busy, they can't cross them, they don't let the kids go. Is that fair to that northern community, the north of Highway 3? And that's where we're coming from. And that's where these people are coming from. They would love to be able to cross, to be able to enjoy the south side of Highway 3 and have their children enjoy the south side of Highway 3 and use that park that's there. Right now they can't. Right now they can't. And the only way the northern part can get to Valley is to cross also. There is no sidewalk on the north side. There's only a sidewalk on the south side. So if they want to use a sidewalk and walk safely with children, you have to cross to get on the sidewalk to be able to go up to Valley. So even to go to Valley Health and Wellness Center, they have to cross this highway, and they're finding it difficult to do so. Anyway, I definitely am going to support that, and here's the petition. There are more to come, by the way, so I'll make sure that you get those as soon as they get them to me. Okay? And we need something to allow people to cross that road safely.
Councillor Doucette, how many names are on your petition?
I didn't look at it. The man gave them to me, and I took a quick look, but I believe I'd say there's at least 30, and they just started. There's a bunch of other papers out there. I'd say 15, around 30. And it's the community. It's the people around there in the community.
Okay, it's not crucial to
No.
the issue. Any other questions or comments? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the recommendation?
Could I ask for a point of clarity here? Do we need to defeat this motion to put the other motion on the floor, or do we?
What is the other motion?
Well, that the city council accept this report for information purposes. So we just accept it as that, and we are automatically going to direct staff to. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we didn't get lost.
Question, Councillor Desmarais?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify the situation, yeah, I had intended to support the receiving this for information. I was asking for just direction for staff to make sure that it did that $90,000 did get added to the budget request. That was it. That was all.
Okay. All those in favor of the recommendation? Opposed? It's carried. Item number 3. Councillor Doucette, that is your item, and I wonder, Mrs. Sutter, would you like to come up and sit at the empty chair up here, just in case they have some questions for you? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Engineering and Operations Division Report Number 2015-201, subject revised frozen water services, pipes policy.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Are you seconding it first?
We have to have a seconder first. Yeah.
Yeah, seconded by Councillor Kenny. Councillor Kenny is, perhaps, Councillor, you said you want to speak to that one?
Yes, thank you.
And we'll come back.
Just a question to Darlene or to Jim. That pamphlet on the bottom of the report, when is that going out? Because I was under the impression that that was going to be out in November. We are now at the end of November. If this doesn't get out with the last set of bills, then they won't be getting this till March. It's going to be too late. So how do we make sure that our citizens get this and have the information they need to be able to be serviced properly?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding was we had to come to council for approval first, and once the policy was approved, then we could move forward with the pamphlet. So our intentions are that we go out in, I believe, the December water bill, Peter. That was our next one. So December, January, and February would be when the water bills would go out. We would, yeah, so that's what we're going to do.
Councillor Doucette?
The December, I think, would be acceptable, but by the time February comes, those people have already been frozen out if we follow last year's schedule. And they will not have had the information necessary to be able to service properly. Is there a way of putting this information on our website and making sure that everyone is aware that it is on our website and they can access it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, additionally, yes, we will put it on the website. And we have also indicated that we would do a special insert in the paper, like our Import News, or City Hall News, sorry, and it would be dedicated solely to frozen water services. That's the intention.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Councillor Kenny?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was just one question, just let me find it because I highlighted it. And it's on page 35 of the report, or page 6 of the bylaw, whatever. That's number 4. It just says the property owner must notify the city of the plumber's findings so that they can be placed on the queue for the frozen service list. And then operations staff and or city contractor will be dispatched once the property moves to the top of the queue. However, what I'm asking is because now the city's finally getting contractors and are giving them certain specifics that how to fill out their bill and all that. Why isn't the plumber, because he just went to the house, why isn't he calling the city? Because the city is hiring those contractors as well. That's what we did last year. We had to hire private contractors because we couldn't keep up. So I'm wanting to know why it would not be the same. If they went in and they looked at that line and said to the property owner, you know what, it's not on the city side, it's on your side, it has to be fixed or whatever, or the opposite, why wouldn't a plumber just call the city and said, I can continue on and fix this problem because I'm right here. I'm right here at this house. I'm telling you that it needs to be done. But you're putting the onus back again on the property owner that they have to notify the city of the plumber's finding. But we're hiring, we have contractors that we are specifically hiring to help out. Because last time we were just, whoever could get there got there, right? And they made haphazard bills out. Ron even told me at the meeting, because I said my husband's been in business for a long time and he's never given the carbon copy of a bill to a customer. He keeps the carbon copy of a bill. And he gives the customer, which is us, the original. And that never happened this year. Ron told me exactly when I asked the question. We got slips of paper, carbon paper. That's what we got for a plumber doing a job. So I'm just saying now, again, here we're trying to revise this and make it right. Let's make it right. Like, to me, if the plumber's there, and we are hiring plumbers again because we don't have enough staff, why isn't he continuing with that job and getting that job done? That's all.
Sutter, can you address that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll do my best. Maybe there's a bit of a misunderstanding. The intention is to have a plumber attend the site to, again, rule out that it's frozen plumbing, and to attempt to thaw the property from inside. If they can keep going and get their water running, then that's our intention that they would do that. And then they would tell us which side, like how far they went, to determine which side it was frozen on. And then if it was frozen on our side, then it would have to be investigated and verified by staff, then there would be a reimbursement there. We don't expect them to stop and say, you know, we're done, we're not going any further. But if they've gone as far as they can, they don't think it's on their side, we leave the onus on the property owner, because what we experienced last year is the plumbers were so busy, they didn't have the time to call us back. Whereas the home, you know, they want to move on to the next house and keep going. So that was kind of the intention of that area of the policy. Does that help?
That helps, but I still have another question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so as long as they're going to continue with that, let's hope that we don't have that terrible. But also on here was the reimbursement. I know of a constituent in my area who did as was told, let the water run, just like I let my water run. And it says in here that they were going to be paid an average. It says their billing will be prorated 70/90 days times whatever, and that the additional consumption would be written off. But for this individual, that did not happen. So it didn't happen. So what would she do to make sure she gets? It's saying that we're getting it, or is this we're only getting that now next time?
Commissioner Sinnes?
Because this is a revised.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone that was on the listing that they had higher consumption and that there was a frozen service on their side, those properties, when the bills came up, were looked at and averaged. If one happened to be missed, then that person should contact our water clerk and have us then look to verify that it was on the list and that it fell in within the criteria. And if it was missed, we would then look at that. We did have a number that would call and say, you know, the estimate was wrong or there was something off, and then we would look at it, and if there was a correction we made, we would make that. With the amount of that we did have, it is definitely possible that one may have been missed. So just have that person give our water clerk a phone call, and then we'll be able to look at that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Demery?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Darlene. Darlene, would it be possible to get the public information out to not just on our website, but out to the library in paper copy, the 2 senior centers and possibly Port Carriage, just to be able to help those people who don't use computers and would need that information?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, it's definitely our intention to get it out as many places as we can. We'd like to have the flyers available at all city facilities, just so people know what to do and what our process is, so yes.
Thank you, Councillor Demery, for the recommendation. Councillor Main.
Just a quick comment. I had the privilege of listening to Sudbury TV last week, the only channel I could get. And they definitely have exactly the same problem that we're had with the frozen water. But they went a step farther. They penalized the homeowner who would not run his tap. And they added an additional fee onto that, because when they went to check out the frozen pipes and they asked if the taps were left on, and as soon as they said no, they're penalized for saying no. And it's the bylaw they passed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong if you go on their website, that during the certain months in the zones where they've had frozen water before, the taps have to be left running. I mean, you know, not a full stream like you're having a shower, but so it's not unique in Port Colborne. It's definitely all over the place. And if you have a chance to listen to Sudbury TV once in a while, go for it.
Any questions to my left here? Councillor Doucette.
Just one more for me. I'm going back to cost and reimbursements. Who gets the reimbursement? And I think it's critical that our citizens understand that. The reimbursements are only if the frozen section of pipe is on the municipal side. Is it not? If it's on the private side, then there is no return, there is no reimbursement of anything. Am I correct there, or am I wrong? Because I'm reading this and that's what I'm getting out of this. And I remember Ron mentioning that the last time when we had that question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do have reimbursement that if it's on the city side, definitely then we're looking at determining what that average is in reimbursement. We do have, though, on page 38 of the package under reimbursements, that once a building water service pipe has been thawed by either plumber from the city's frozen service plumbers list or by the city, the property owner may be advised to run the water in order to prevent the line from refreezing, and compensation for water used shall be as follows. So in the case of a first-time freeze on the building water service side, which is on the private side, the bill shall be adjusted to the average consumption as described, but there would be no reimbursements for any subsequent private side freezes. So basically, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt on the first one. Like if it's a first-time freeze, they didn't know that they should have been running their water and so on, then we will adjust it for the first time. But if we tell them, listen, run your water for a little bit and so on in order to prevent the freeze because it's on the private side, which would be at their cost, to prevent further freezes. If they don't do that and it freezes, then they're not going to be compensated at that point in time. So we're sort of giving them that one-shot deal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Wanted to make sure that was clear.
Councilor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Peter. Peter, are we simply telling them that, or is there a form that they sign and we sign so someone can't come back later on and say, they told me to run the water?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a letter, if I'm not mistaken, that will be going to the owner advising them. An actual letter will go to the homeowner advising them of the policy and of what's taken place so that they are aware of what would happen.
Go ahead, Councilor Bodnar.
Okay, so the water's frozen. It's minus 40. City comes and says, you should run your water. And the letter comes to them 5 days later in the mail. Something just didn't sound quite, like somebody's got to run that water right away rather than wait for a letter to come. So
The letter is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the letter would be given to them at that time. At the time when city staff was there and the frozen pipe was thawed out, they would then be given that letter on the spot. Okay. Correct?
Thank you.
Any further comments? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Item number 4, Councilor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Community and Corporate Services Report Number 2015-212, subject disposition of Niagara Regional Broadband Network, NRBN, shares and winding up of companies.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councilor Butters. Councilor Kenny? Questions? Go ahead, Councilor Butters.
Yes, I have, first of all, I don't think I ever stood in front of a check that big before, and this kind of is all related, so that was pretty cool. My question is on item number 5, and it talks about a committee of council consisting of the mayor, 2 members of council, and 2 members of the public that would be formed to oversee the distribution of grants to nonprofit organizations and the granting policy be adopted. And I just wondered when that will happen, first of all, and then second of all, when this granting thing goes under that banner, shall we say. It used to be like a spring and a fall intake for applications. Will it just be one intake then, or will that committee decide, or how will that work?
Mr. CAO or Mr. Sinnes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councilor Butters. Once, if council approves the recommendations here this evening, then further report will come back to council for the members of council that would wish to sit on the committee, and also then that the approval of this will also then give the city clerk the authority to go out for the other two public people to sit on the committee itself. As far as the distribution of grants goes, in the granting policy, you're right, were 2 intakes, and there would continue to be 2 intakes, January and June, July, I believe it is. So there'll be 2 during the year, and that would be split as to the dollar amount between both intakes. So it'd be very similar to how Port Colborne Hydro, it's the same policy that Port Colborne Hydro was using, so we're not reinventing the wheel. And was using the same format, which basically Port Colborne Hydro was the mayor, 2 councillors that were sat on the Port Colborne Hydro, and 2 members of the public. So it's the exact same same setup, same procedures, and it just, again, it takes it and puts it on the committee to recommend basically what the grants would be, and the same type of process of approving those grants.
Councillor Kenny?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to add to number 7, asked through you to Peter. Peter, it says in further for 2016, so that's coming up. We're already getting our applications for January. So the balance of that 181, because 40,000 we're setting aside for 2016 for granting, and the balance, the 181, whatever's left, whatever that works out to, 141,000. What's happening to that money? Because the recommendation says that the initial amount is going to be put in an account, which is I'm totally in favor of, because it gives us a chance to continue with the granting program. But what about the balance of that 181?
Director Sinis?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kenny. The dividend that'd be coming from Port Colborne Hydro to the city would be the 181, and if this is approved by council tonight, that 40,000 of that will be set aside for 2016 in order for 1 year of investment of the $775,000 for the 2016 that would be then paid out for the grants. The balance, the $141,000, would be added to the $7 million that's going into the pot of the funds for future capital infrastructure projects. So we would bring that together, unless council decides that, otherwise in budget time, that the $141,000 council approves that they want to spend that on one-time expenditure or some capital at that point in time. But ultimately, it will be there for council's discretion. But obviously, the last recommendation is, which we'll be talking December 11th about some large capital infrastructure projects as to how we're going to look at spending the $7.5 million. And our recommendation at this point in time is to try to leverage that with other future grants, federal, provincial, and try to do what we did with the hydro, which is get 2/3 funding. So basically make that $7 million into $21 million and see if there's any projects out there and funding that we can then get a bigger bang for our buck.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? Councillor Butters?
So assuming that, like obviously that it says a maximum of 30,000 each year from, which is the interest, I guess, earned from the 775. If there's more than 30,000 earned in interest, would the same thing happen? That would be funneled back into the 7 million?
No.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Correct, Councillor Kenny, no. What the plan that we discussed at the hydro was that if interest was higher than the $30,000, that would be put back into the principal amount of $775 to at least be able to create a higher fund for the times that possibly interest rates may be lower and we don't meet the $30,000 in a particular year, then we would have that money to supplement it.
Any further questions? Then we call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Item number 8. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Community and Corporate Services, Clerk's Division, report number 2015-215, subject appointments to boards and committees, East Village Neighborhood Improvement Task Force, and Senior Citizen Advisory Committee.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Butters. Any discussion? Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I lifted this for the purpose of getting it out there, and the people who have been chosen would like the neighborhood to hear their names so that they become a point of contact. So if I could
go ahead,
just
Councillor.
say their names. Chosen for the East Village Neighborhood Improvement Task Force are William Coates, Michael Jessam, and Dee Tilbrook. And that's all I wanted to do. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Item number 9. Councillor Main.
Fire and Emergency Services report number 2015-203, subject purchase of a replacement vehicle for the 2000 van.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Danch? Discussion? Questions? Councillor Main.
Yes, I know this was approved at the last budget when the chief asked to replace the 2000 van. Now, I think the budget called for, if I'm not mistaken, $32,000 to be set aside for that van.
Your Worship, the budget amount at that time was projected to be up to $35,000, but we hadn't gone out to get quotes at that time.
Thank you, Chief. And getting back to that, I was quite impressed with the van, even though I raised a lot of stink about going to the diesel pickup trucks and whatever. But I also told Chris Lee later that he did one heck of a job as far as pricing goes. I had a good chance to look at the SUV that, is it engineering has or water has? It doesn't matter. And it's a nice vehicle. It's lots of room. It's as big as a Torrent. And it was $19,000. I wonder if the chief can tell us why it's $28,000 for the fire department when the city engineering bought one for $19,000.
Chief Carver.
Your Worship, if I could. The vehicle is a Torrent. There are some differences in it. It's an all-wheel drive vehicle. It's a 6-cylinder. It's got a heavy-duty suspension. It's got a rear vision camera, which the other one has. We upped the tires to Michelin tires. The alternator has been larger. It's up to 155 amps. Larger battery. It's all-wheel drive, as I'd mentioned, and it's got splash guards on it. It's got the remote keyless entry. Remote vehicle start includes extended range remote keyless entry. Those are the main features of it. It's a 6-cylinder and all-wheel drive are the two of the things that are different, I believe. I will add that I did this in conjunction with Chris. He provided me with the companies to contact. We sent the tenders to them, and the tender actually was drawn up with his assistance.
Any additional questions, Councillor Meade?
Just one. Is this going to be used as a first response vehicle?
Again, Your Worship, the vehicle will be used mainly by the Deputy Chief, but it will be used within fire prevention. It will be used by myself from time to time, but it will be used as an emergency response vehicle. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Any further questions? Councillor Danch?
So we're always driving around town and looking and see what's going on. So currently we've got a red Dodge pickup truck parked there, and right now we've got a little white car with a red stripe going on it. I realize the Dodge pickup is your former unit. What's the car sitting back there right now?
Your Worship, if I could, the car that's sitting on the lot is owned by the manufacturer of the fire truck that was outside this evening. The tank truck has been returned to them for some warranty work, and that vehicle is Dependable's vehicle that they've left there while the driver took our truck back.
Councilor Danch?
I think I've been here for 5 years now, and every year we seem to need more vehicles, and it's not getting any cheaper, and we seem to be increasing our fleet. We look at our population, and it's not getting any greater. I guess it's a good thing we're on camera. I can't really say my feelings, but I'm not in favor of another vehicle. I'm sorry. There's too many of them running around now, and a rear camera and a big alternator and all-wheel drive does not warrant $9,000 in options. I think we could certainly go out there and get something a little bit cheaper, especially if we're going to use it as a surplus vehicle in a parking lot, but we'll see what the vote says.
Any further comments or questions? Councilor Kenny?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the chief, again, I understand that that was a replacement of something, a 2000 vehicle, but my concern was the same. I know that was approved in the budget, so when Chris went out hunting for all our other vehicles, maybe he could have got you even better price for that vehicle, because the more you purchase, the more that customer should be giving you. So you don't get a deal if you buy more vehicles, or I guess that was my only concern. Was I checked back, and like I said, I saw the other vehicle being purchased for like $20,000. This is like $19,000, and this is, you know, more. So I just wondered about that. That's all. Thank you.
Chief Cartwright?
Your Worship, if I could, I had spoken to Chris in around budget time. At that particular time, a decision had been made by myself and others within the department concerning the vehicle. The actual decision was tied to the fire prevention position, and you're not wrong in what you've indicated. I would like to think that through group purchasing you would get better pricing. Unfortunately, the timing didn't work for us. I also believe that in the future we would hopefully be able to be more proactive in that particular venue, if I could say. Unfortunately, it didn't work for us at this particular time.
Any other questions? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Move on to item number 11 we've disposed of. Item 16, Councilor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Region of Niagara options for Niagara region to support development around the Fort Erie racetrack, and it's PDS report 42/2015.
Seconder for that recommendation? Councilor Desmarais? Discussion? Councilor Bodnar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I raise this for just because it's a darn good idea, I think, and I've supported the Canadian Motor Speedway that they're building there, and everything that the region's done for them there. This is the racetrack, and there's a new consortium that has taken it over, and if they do everything they say they're going to do, it's going to be another huge draw for the area. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like you and the regional councillor, you know, to support things like this whenever it comes forward. I'm going at it from a tourism angle, and it's certainly a huge deal, but people are going to work there from this area. It is just something we should be supporting, and I'm sure Fort Erie would be supporting us if we were, you know, if the roles would be reversed. But I just wonder whether I might just ask Mr. Aguilina this what the region actually did. Dan, can you just explain that in a Coles Notes version, please?
through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bodnar. What the region has is a Gateway Economic Zone and Center CIP. The mapping they have is an appendix to that. These lands were outside of that area, and so they wanted to ensure that all of the lands that are under this development is within their CIP. So this report does that, makes that amendment to the mapping.
Councilor Bodnar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and kudos to the region for stepping forward and doing this. I think it's just, it's really good that everybody's working together to get developments like this off the ground. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comment? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Does anyone have any notices of motion they wish to advance this evening? There being none, before I call for an adjournment, I would just point out the upcoming committee of the whole and council meetings. Specifically, our next meeting is Friday, December 11th. That's a special council meeting to discuss capital projects and infrastructure priorities. And December 14th, which will be our last committee of the whole council meeting. And then we'll be into the new year. Any further comments or questions? There being none, I request a motion for adjournment. Councillor Danch, seconder. Councillor Kenny, all those in favor? Carried. Meeting is adjourned. Move on now to the regular meeting of council number 34-15. Call the meeting to order. Are there any addendum items, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Motion to confirm the agenda. Moved by Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Bodnar. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any disclosures of interest? There being none, it shall be noted. I call for a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Council 33-15 held on November 9th, 2015. Moved by Councillor Butters, seconded by Councillor Danch. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any items requiring separate discussion? There being none, I call for a motion to approve the items not requiring separate discussion. Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed? Can I see that again, please? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. There are no proclamations this evening. There are no minutes from any boards, commissions, or committees. Consideration of bylaws. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The following bylaws be enacted and passed. Bylaw 6305-13115 being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement of purchase and sale with Habitat for Humanity Niagara respecting 254 Mitchell Street. Bylaw 6306-13215 being a bylaw to adopt frozen water services pipes policy and to repeal bylaw 6173-13914. Bylaw 6307-13315 being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 4456-12903 being a bylaw to establish remuneration for boards of directors of Port Colborne Energy Inc. Bylaw 6308-13415 being a bylaw to appoint members to the East Village Neighborhood Improvement Task Force and to the Senior Citizen Advisory Council. Bylaw 6309-13515 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a contract agreement with the City of St. Catharines for fire dispatch services. Bylaw 6310-13615 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 57995412 being a bylaw to delegate authority to the CIO under Section 23 of the Municipal Act for the purposes of the disposition of the remaining CMT lots. And finally, bylaw 6311-13715 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting of November 23rd, 2015.
I have a motion to move those bylaws en masse on bulk. Seconder. Mover was Councillor Main. Seconder was Councillor Doucette. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. At this time, We'll consider a motion to go into closed session. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council do now proceed into closed session in order to address the following matters. Item A, minutes of the closed session portion of the November 9th, 2015 council meeting. Item B, memorandum from the Director of Community and Corporate Services dated November 23rd, 2015 regarding potential acquisition of 2 properties by the city pursuant to Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239(2)C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And item C, memorandum from the Director of Planning and Development dated November 17th, 2015 regarding potential acquisition of a property by the city pursuant to Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239(2)C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed?
Sorry, mover and seconder.
Mover was Councillor Main. Seconder was Councillor Bodnar. All those in favor again? Opposed? Carried. We shall now move into closed session.